Thank you so much. Thank you, Rupam, for that nice introduction. Yes, folks. So, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for the opportunity to present. Null has been always close to my heart because early days when Null had started, maybe 10, 11 years back. So the location where it used to get hosted was in my college, and like Rupam said, it is really a good community to share knowledge and the learnings. And yeah, he mentioned about how exactly it is benefited for both offensive and defensive. And today's topic for me, it is slightly different from the regular talks and technical stuff which we talk about in Null. So if you feel that it is a little bit boring or anything like that, then yeah, I'm sorry for that, because data privacy is a little bit like that. So we will be looking at a kind of compliance and GRC mix of the session for today, but I'll try to make it as interesting as possible. What I've done is I've just collated some of the informations which based on the current scenarios and the situation we are all in. And there will be some changes in the landscapes of threat and risk exposures. So we will be covering all that. Just to give you background of about myself, I'm currently leading the assessment division at Network Intelligence. I started as a pen tester and carrying about a decade of experience in field of cybersecurity. Current Yeah, I've presented at some of the forums, and I've presented at Null also before, just that I've not been very frequent, to be honest. And I'm based out of Dubai, and you can reach out to me over my Twitter handle. I've recently closed my Facebook account, and I've been happy after that. So just about it for me. And a small disclaimer, yeah, so please ignore any background noises if they come. I've tried to keep myself in the possiblest peaceful environment right now, but yeah, this is the new normal we are learning in. And yeah, please ignore, and I'm really sorry if there are any background noises. Apart from that, I would like to crack first joke that the privacy part is quite easy. So in my view, at least you should have a PhD in it, so then you can call that the privacy is quite easy. So with that, another disclaimer: the session is going to be a little informal from my side, because yeah, I mean, so like I mentioned in the first place, that Null has been quite close to my heart when we share the knowledge, and all of the people like Rupam, Tawfiq, and everybody has been really close friends for me. So please ignore or digest the sarcasm which may come during my session. We will talk about data privacy standards, but I will not go in detail because honestly, I'm also not like totally into the standards and the laws which are there. So, what I will do is I will just keep the session related to where exactly these laws or any standards are helping us or helping the organizations to protect the data privacy of customers, or maybe the individuals or the employees. And the reference links are given at the end, so if you feel that if you want to have some of the references from my end, like whichever I have studied, you can go through them. Yeah, that's from disclaimers. The brief agenda: we will be talking about the data exposures due to the current situation. We'll talk about the protection controls, which any individual as well as any organization can think about. It is very important to identify the limits when we talk about privacy and its implications, because many times we handle data very easily. We don't really bother about what exactly the implications could happen on both privacy at the same time on the security front. So we will be looking into those aspects, and I'll just share some of the awareness guidelines for the folks who are not really aware of the privacy, and which you guys can also share when you're dealing with your internal teams, or maybe with your customers. So the current situation, when we talk about, these are some of the statistics which I wanted to highlight. These are the statistics taken from CrowdStrike's recent survey. Uh, so they have come to a conclusion that, most of the people, most of the organizations have moved for work from home culture, teleworking culture, but they basically have not given appropriate training or the awareness sessions for their employees. So with that, the risks of having data exposure and security has pretty much, so this is another example of that, that recent past few months have seen significant increase in the cybersecurity world. The attacks have increased quite significantly. So it is again, repercussions of both the pandemic as well as the teleworking and work from home culture. So the news also says the same thing. Recently, there have been some ransomware and phishing attacks which are on the rise, and the misconfiguration cloud environments and VPN environments, RDP environments have been quite significant. We recently saw that there was one link shared on our Null Dubai group as well, wherein the data which is sold in the dark web and deep web is quite significant if you look at the statistics over there. So the privacy issue has come to a very very important role right now, and since last few months the overall privacy structure in the industry has been changed. It is changing obviously, and with introduction of some of the new standards. For example, recently DIFC announced about the data protection law. There is another act which was passed in US called CCPA, which is related to California Consumer Protection and Privacy Act. So this is again coming into effect. There have been changes into uh, recently the adoption of GDPR and stuff like that. So those things are happening quite drastically, and with the current pandemic situation, the personal data is getting exposed quite significantly. So that we will be talking about in coming slides. So, if you have seen the recent media and the news which are floating across about the pandemic, yeah, the recent ones, maybe you can say that it is a disadvantage of the technologies what we have and the network connections which we have in the market right now, because of which the comparative analysis of COVID-19's mentioning in the media has been significant, and it works both ways. I mean, if you have such media marketing done for any diseases, then it is like, for positive way. You can take notes and you can be aware of the overall pandemic. At the same time, somebody can misuse the data and build some of the attacks, which is exactly right now happening. People are building up their attacks using the same awareness campaigns and stuff like that, which is mentioned in the social media. So let's start off with the actual session. So first, we will have to get some of the understandings clear for ourselves when we talk about data privacy. So yeah, this is my slide which calls as "Who Let the Basics Out," because maybe we are familiar with data privacy, but yeah, once you start going through it, we get to understand a lot of basics, and there is wordplay because uh, strictly speaking, the privacy is somewhere linked to the legal actions and legal ways. So when I mean, I call myself as into technologies. I don't really have the compliance or legal background as such. But yeah, when we think about on joining these two terms, then obviously we need to have knowledge of the basics of data privacy and how exactly they are different from the regular technology aspects. So, first, we need to understand that data privacy is not equivalent to data protection. These are two different terms. When we talk about protection, it is a parameter which should be implemented and how it should be implemented to protect the privacy of data. So we have to get this clarified, because the terms are little confusing, and of course it was confusing for me also. But by definition, the privacy is something, if somebody has it's I mean the individual data or maybe organization's data which needs to be protected, and the data which is very private to the person, obviously we'll look into what all data we can say as private. But that so having that private data kept as is, or not to violate anybody's privacy, is something which we, when we talk about data privacy. But how to make keep that data private, and how to protect that data from getting in wrong hands, is something which we talk when we are talking about data protection. And in similar fashion, data privacy is not equivalent to data security. Again, security can give you assurance how exactly the data is maintained securely by following the CIA triads. And this will again ensure whether the data is kept private or not. And privacy will essentially talk about whether and how the data is collected or stored. And security will talk about whether it is made confidential, or its integrity is maintained or not, and how the availability is maintained or not. With that, I think we should be looking at the relation between these three different terminologies, because, like I mentioned, the privacy, protection, and security are pretty much related. In simplest word, if I have to put, you cannot have privacy without protection and security. This is the way I can explain. Maybe, like I mentioned, you, if you really want to dig deep, then you need to have a PhD in data privacy. Okay, so protection of data and securing data can help in maintaining privacy. Again, a wordplay, like I mentioned earlier. So yeah, this is something are related to each other. Then what exactly can be a private data for an individual? So these are various types of data. PII is a generic term. Of course, payment information also falls sort of under PII. Health records also fall under PII. So PII is any information of an individual which will help any person or any other person to identify that the first person. So be it the mobile number, or your maybe Emirates ID right now, or the Aadhaar number or social security number, then your address or your email address, any sort of information which will help tracking a person can be considered as PII. The payment information, of course, we know that as per the card industry, PCI, and the payment information related to transactions and the card numbers itself can be personal data for a person. And healthcare records, because these days the healthcare records are becoming quite important. Those are shared widely. Those are also available in a lot of places. Along with that, the criminal records, location data, and biological data is can form overall as a private data for any individual. Then yeah, so various regulations and acts are there to protect such information. So these are the I mean some examples of acts or laws which help people to protect the data. And of course somewhere it is linked to the legal way also, which I'll be covering it up in next slide. So whenever there comes a breach or any violation of the privacy, then the legal stuff comes in picture. That's why these acts and regulations have to be adhered or are enforced within each and every country. So regions and countries have their own regulations or laws, and it could be from constitutional point of view, or it could be IT law or civil law point of view. And some of the countries may have regulations from religious perception also. So these laws and regulations are there for protecting information of each and every individual or the citizens of that country or continent. So I have one. I've found one very interesting link, which gives the entire subset of the laws or the legal stuff for data privacy and protection. And I have added that link into my reference. You can filter it out by each and every country. You can read the various definitions of the privacy from each and every country, and you can compare the acts and laws between the countries also. So it is quite interesting. I will share that link with you in the reference section. So yeah, again, this entire thing, when we talk about the privacy, it is a game of trust, not the Game of Thrones thing, but game of trust. Because here what happens is each and every entity is trying to put their views in front of each other, and somebody is actually accepting those terms and conditions and then sharing the data. So like, for example, in the next slide I will show you that when user is sharing the data or the customer is sharing the data, he's trusting the data requester. It could be a website, or it could be maybe, let's say, to give you a real time example, a travel agent is asking you for passport details or visa details just to book your tickets. So you are trusting that agent, and the agent is, maybe they will have just a tick mark that whether you accept the terms and condition or not. You just tick it and you submit your data, or you upload the data on their server. Now what happens after that is something you don't know, but you are just blindly trusting, or maybe you're assuming that the privacy will be maintained by the data requester. And so they could have the data privacy compliance framework in place, which they would follow, just to avoid any regulatory issues or legal issues or any fines or any punishments if there is a breach in privacy. And so these controls are implemented to protect data at rest, process and transmit. While all of these things are happening, they try to control. Now what happens with this data is something which is very interesting. If you read out any legal document, if you look at these days after GDPR, you must have seen that all the websites are giving you one disclaimer, or maybe an acceptance consent warning that they will be taking some of the private or maybe some of the data which you have in the forms or on your browser, just for their websites functioning. And they may not store the data, but they will require to have that data for functioning of the website. But if you dig deeper into such consent letters, then you will find that there is a clause of sharing such information with other parties. So this is a classic example when you just, if you have maybe a Facebook account, as well as you have your Instagram account, you have your WhatsApp, and you have your Amazon account. So when if you're, let's say, browsing through your Amazon to purchase maybe office chair or something, then your Facebook account or Facebook app will by default start showing advertisements related to office chairs. So this thing comes in picture because you have somewhere agreed with Amazon that they would be sharing some of the search records or maybe the personal information. What you going to provide Amazon with Facebook or maybe Instagram or WhatsApp? Anyway, these are same entity, but yeah, essentially Facebook. So that's how it gets, I mean, into a different world wherein we ourselves have agreed somewhere to provide our information to other third parties, which we really don't look into while we talk about the consents. So yeah, the external requester also asks for the data to our first primary website. And once the requester asks for the data, then the permission is granted to it, and the requester gets our data. So it could be just a search record, and it could be email address, or it could be phone number also. So these things create a lot of maybe we can say a disruption when we disable these consents. So if you must have seen, Google's warning if we disable the tracking of personal data, or if we disable the tracking of personal search. Then Google states the warning that it will not allow us to provide you personalized services. So personalized services are essentially getting this data, then having rest of the third parties provide the similar structure, similar picture to you. So whatever you are looking out for from your personal angle, you will get the same services. In a way, you might feel that it is good feature, but at the same time, you accidentally or unknowingly share your private information with these parties. And of course, if there is any breach into this entire chain, then it involves a legal action, and that's where these regulations and the laws come in picture. And there you maybe you might not have a defending point, because you have somewhere agreed on the consent of the risk which you will be taking while sharing the data. Okay, so yeah, that with that, I think I've covered the basics. If you have any questions, obviously you can put it across in the chat box, and we will answer them at the end. Then let's cover up the data exposure, which has come across because of the pandemic situation right now. So first we'll look into the personal data of an individual which is getting exposed these days, and later we'll talk about the organizational data which can be accidentally accessed by the employees, or maybe how exactly the risk exposure has increased on those data fronts. So first, like we spoke about, the trusting of websites with personal information is something which we are anyway doing. Nowadays we are sharing health information with for multiple platforms. Like I was just looking at the repatriation flights and the information what they require for any person to get onboarded just to fly back home. So the forms have quite decent information to ask for. So they ask for your passport and your addresses, your mobile numbers, your past 6 months health record, your so you just have to write it. You don't have to provide any evidence, but at least you will have to write it, the 4 or 5 cities you have visited in last 3 months. So those sort of data is something which the regulatories are asking for onboarding the flights and stuff like that. So you provide consent letters and declaration forms, you sign those forms, you put all valid information, because if the information is not accurate, then obviously you will miss your flight or you don't get to go home. That's why you put your valid information on that. Now the crucial part comes in picture when you submit these forms to maybe the regulatories or whoever is making you fly, the airlines. You are not aware what happens to those forms. Where are they kept? Are they destroyed after you fly back, or maybe after a month or so? That is something a gray area right now. Not many people have thought about it, or this is something as an additional exposure you have to consider, that you are providing all your data like that. Another thing is we are joining workplaces somewhere, some at least with 50% or 60% workforce. We are rejoining work, and many times for rejoining also nowadays, HR or maybe the office officials are asking for health records, or they are asking for COVID-19 negative test. The test results also contain a lot of health information for yourselves, and or some of the regulatories, not in our country but maybe other countries also, they are asking employers to record the temperature and blood pressure or heart rate, and have it in the record for some time. So that again is additional exposure for your personal data, which we have to consider. And of course, the trackers and health devices have been in limelight since quite a while in overall situation of COVID-19, because every day new startups and new companies are trying to figure out how can we provide additional tracking mechanism to at least have safeguarded environment, and the people will have see a confidence to go out safely. So all the tracking apps and any nowadays, I think the smartwatch watches are also coming up with some of the features like that, and they will have maybe, I think recently Apple has a feature which will ask you to, I mean, wash your hands, and it will record whether you are washing your hands for 20 seconds or not. Now, I'm pretty sure that it is kept only that level. I'm assuming, or maybe I'm praying that it is kept to that level only. But you don't know what happens to that data after it is recorded. So that is additional information which you are sharing. And the testing records, like I mentioned, we are sharing the testing record just to get through the gate passes, just to get through some of the entities, and we are sharing those blindly. Yeah, and along with that, some may share some data over social media. I've seen such cases wherein, because of panic, because of furloughs, because of layoffs, people are sharing their information over public forums. They are sharing their resumes, they are sharing some of the personal data over there. And that is because of the panic situation what we are in right now. Along with that, we recently figured out, I mean, when everything was related to tracing patients and tracking them, there was one thing which got my attention was, uh, there was a map of a region which was showing all the patients in red, green, and orange type. Wherever there are critical patients, the location of that patient was shown on the map. And accidentally, or I don't know, knowingly, unknowingly, the patient's information was available over internet for quite significant time. I would say maybe at least for 3 4 weeks it was available like that. And there have been other cases also wherein government has accidentally given out the APIs publicly accessible for making the statistics website to show how many number of patients are there in the country, and how many are cured or not. So those APIs are also quite vulnerable these days. Then websites presenting analytical data accidentally leaking personal information. I'm pretty sure that you guys must have come across some of the recent attacks which have happened on the statistical websites. Then let's talk about the organizational perspective for data exposure. So since I mean, most of the organizations have adopted to the culture of teleworking, they have asked employees to start working from their. Some of them have started working from personal systems, or at least from personal laptops. So the company data is used over personal system or personal networks. So that is another exposure for companies private data. So what companies private data could be, let's say HRMS records or employee records could be companies private data. Maybe some of the client details could be companies private data. So that depends on how exactly companies classifying the data, but more or less most of the times these kind of data can be considered as private to the company. Then we started working on SaaS platforms. Some of the companies had to migrate their physical service servers because of the money crunch. They started adopting the cloud platforms for Active Directory and HRMS. Not sure about the configurations, but yeah, those sort of exposures started coming in picture, and they basically uploaded all the records overnight, and they made a lot of internal applications running through cloud. And some of them initially were not secured. Slowly they are getting secured, as per my experience. But yeah, those sort of applications were kept available for most of the employees. At the same time, the controls were little bit easing up just to make sure that the big business is functioning. So always, since everybody knows that the security part is kept at the back end of business, so that's why the business was running, but the security was still catching up with the business part. So those kind of exposures from company or organization perspective came in picture. Then the data shared with third parties and vendors, because the vendors were still not actually gone for work from home culture, or maybe the development plans and the calendars were still happening on ad hoc basis. and there were strict deadlines. They were given easy access to the data, some of them related to authentication data also, some of them for employee data and other customers data just for testing purpose. So we've seen such cases wherein people or the organizations had given easy access to vendors without doing proper checks or the backend checks also. Easy VPN accesses were given, and they were not checked whether they are restricted or they are having least privilege accesses or not. So those sort of accesses. Then records on paper is something you cannot really control. But let's say if an employee is working from home right now and they are accessing some of the important or private data of a company, then if they have a printer, you don't know whether they are printing the data at home or not. So this is something which you might need to restrict at the endpoints. I'll be talking about the recommendations or the things which any organization need to consider while trying to adhere for the privacy. So yeah, but this is another risk exposure which we can talk about. So one thing what actually got into our analysis was, while ensuring there is a seamless experience of work from home or teleworking, and to show showcase that the overall company or the business is functioning as is without any glitch while working from home. So we basically started taking backups, and just to ensure that there is no loss of data or the availability of data is still maintained, people took a lot of backups. I mean, they were excited about backups, so I would say, but instead of making only one single copy, there could be a multiple copies of the data, which any organization should be looking at, because you don't know like who has taken what level of backups. You don't have necessary controls at the moment, because many of the employees are not connected directly to the corporate environment where you can implement those sort of controls. Apart from that, on in general, the risk exposure, it is common for both organizations perspective as well as from personal perspective. The phishing, if you have seen the records or the recent news, the phishing attack has risen up quite significantly. And yeah, of course, the attackers are using COVID-19 situation. They are creating panic scenarios, they are creating employment scenarios, they are creating opportunities to go back home or renew visas and stuff like that. And they are like making them pay as well as share their personal information using such attacks. So apart from that, business email compromise continues to be the most devastating attack in current situation. And yeah, again, like I mentioned earlier also, when we have the information, or any organization or any other third party has the information, you don't know whether they are retaining that information for very long or they are discarding. Because typically if you look at your personal data, at least it is valid for some years, maybe 5 or 10 years at least. So those sort of things you cannot really look into at the moment. And ransomware continues to be another hit or another attack which is currently happening. So there are two aspects to it. So one, ransomware, I mean, the attackers strategies are to ask for money just to unlock the systems. Now if the customers have backups already, so they might say that, rather not the customer, I would say victim, if they have the backups, they might say that, I will not pay for it, I just have my data available. So they say that, we will expose the data over internet or public or maybe dark web. So they are going into that level, and ultimately the victim loses in both the cases. So those sort of attacks are happening in these days. So as I mentioned about the overall risks, let's talk about the controls which anybody can put across. So like I mentioned, I'm not going into too much of detail what act or what law or any regulation is talking about. But in general, we can say that in current pandemic situation, some of the controls which can be handy or which can be looked into are these controls which I'll be talking about. So one thing is, you don't have to share your information unnecessarily. Okay, so you have to first check what information you are sharing. If it is really not needed, don't share it. And just be aware that the privacy and how to protect your own data. So everybody, or any personal or any individual, needs to be aware of what privacy regulations are talking about, how to protect your own data, and think in terms of you being your own safety measure for controlling your data. So you I mean, any individual needs to understand that one single data item can be leveraged by any attacker to build the entire portfolio for you. Like, for example, as I mentioned, a single mobile number, or maybe your Emirates ID or passport number, can be then connected with other data items, and your overall portfolio can be ready with any attacker. Then report any incident to your organization. So if on your personal level, if there has been some data incident, or maybe you might have faced any attack on your own system, or while working at home, it is possible. Then in that case, you have to really just urgently report that incident to your organization also. And try to put controls like multi-factor authentication, and maybe start using the or start checking your data actively, whether you might have accidentally given up some data in other fashion or not. For organization, the controls could be, first, try and see whether the data classification is in place, and put technological controls once the classification is done. Technologies like DLPs, or any other, like some of the technologies which help you to securely store some sensitive data. So those sort of controls you can look into. Secure teleworkers, and limit their connections, because in recent times we have seen that a lot of misconfigurations are there for the VPN connectivity, the remote connectivities, and there are multiple servers which are exposed over internet, and the authentication mechanisms are really poorly configured. So try and do that, so that the additional data exposure is reduced. Organizations should check whether some technologies like sandboxing can be done for company data on private systems, because nowadays some of the companies have asked people to use their personal systems while working for their data. So there are two aspects to it. One is to protect the company data. At the same time, we don't want to violate somebody's privacy also. So both the things can be achieved by using such technologies. And if you don't really need, or the regulations are not asking for somebody's health data, then don't ask for it, because ultimately then it brings you down to whether you are retaining the data for very long, or are you how securely you are discarding the data. Are you deleting the data, like over tapes, or how they are happening. So those sort of things will come by default. So try and avoid, if you don't need the data, don't collect the data. As simple as that. Or at least have appropriate rules in effect. If you really have to get the data, then try to protect it as per the rules and regulations. Ensure destruction of information, as I mentioned earlier, and see if the legacy systems are also uh, collecting some of the employees' personal data or private data. So that could also create a problem, because the legacy systems are quite vulnerable. We have seen many attacks on legacy systems, and we are not even able to upgrade them, or get them into a migration, because that takes a lot of time for organization. So try and see whether such kind of data is lying in legacy systems, and how that can be controlled. Another so the basic funda of standards and regulations and laws is, they also provide really good guidelines when they are talking about the privacy measures. And that essentially asks you to put the controls in right place, adhere to some of the compliance measures, which will make sure that if something goes wrong, then at least you as an organization is safe. So for example, you can put least privileges to the users, and let's say you are sharing for your business model, you are sharing the data with third parties, then at least share the least necessary information. Don't give them access to everything. Then follow the record retention as per the standards and laws. If let's say for if PCI is asking for a specific retention period, and after that you have to discard the information, then make sure that the information is discarded. Mostly it is not. I mean, as per my experience also, the information generally lies for decades also. Apart from that, backup, but control the number of backups. Like I said, the earlier case, we in excitement sometimes just to make sure that the backups are kept and the availability is still there, we take multiple backups. And yeah, multiple backups is okay, but at least then limit it, or limit the control over those backups, and make sure that those backups are deleted once they are done. Because many times it happens that we create copies of the backups, but we forget about the other copies of the backups. So and for any organization, it is really necessary to get their legal views on the protection laws, privacy laws, and stuff like GDPR and all. So they if the legal team gives additional picture on these acts and regulations, then you are pretty much in a view of what can go wrong and what can really happen if some of the violations or breach happens. And after that, then you start protecting your data, so it becomes a good mixture of both legal as well as security point of view. Get help from regulatory guidelines, such as like NIST privacy framework gives really good guidelines for protecting the privacy and the privacy implications also. So you can have those flown in the compliance teams, and try and get idea of how exactly those frameworks can be adopted in the network. Check your deadlines for compliance. Like recently the data protection law for DIFC, the deadline of is 1st October 2020. So for any organizations, from regulation standpoint, it is very necessary to get compliant before the deadline. So otherwise there are generally fines or other regulatory actions. Yeah, with that, I think the main topics were covered. Now, another major point, or maybe I would say a rather interesting point, is to identify the limits wherein, while you perform any security assessments, or if any individual is handling company's data, you have to identify the privacy implications of that data, and while performing any assessments. So, for any internal or external personnel who's performing security assessment on the network, you really need to understand where exactly the privacy of employee is getting violated. So you don't want to unnecessarily touch their personal systems or personal network. Like for example, if somebody is working from home, and if you are an internal security employee who is trying to perform security assessment on their infra, whether their infra is secure or not, now it is always better if they perform the you can simply give a tool to them, or maybe a scanner file to them, and they perform the scan on their network and system and provide you the report. That is still okay. But if you are performing the scan, then of course you might not limit the scan to only one single system or their own data only, or the company's data only. You might even touch their personal pictures, or maybe personal music files or video files, which again creates a problem. You ultimately end up violating their privacy. So those things you will have to consider going ahead, because ultimately the most of the employees are working from home, so you are attacking their personal routers, or you're testing their personal routers or the systems connected to that router as well. So there is an authorization which might be taken from employees, but you have to understand that you have to limit yourselves to the proof of concept while performing the security assessment. Firstly, you'll have to identify the dotted line or check whether you are only touching the company network or company data, or you are also testing their private network or private data. Apart from that, be aware of personal systems and handheld devices. It is possible that only IP address may not mean that you're testing their personal system. It could be their corporate system. It could be their private system like phone or any other device which is connected to the network. Yeah, and from employee standpoint, if they are handling organizations private data, they have to pay attention to the cloud storage, because we've seen that while sharing the company data maybe with other parties, or maybe their partners or somebody who's working with the company, they accidentally share the data with public link, or the links which may not need any authentication. So such data can get exposed over internet very easily, uh, through personal emails also. Some of, let's say, some people are sharing the data, but sharing it with outsider, so that is also you need to take into account. Printing at home, which we talked about earlier. And since these days we have like, tools like Zoom, Teams, and others, they allow file sharing very easily. The limits are not really set, so you can actually send some of the files accidentally, or you may just share it with outsider. That you need to think about. And health data of employees rejoining the office, any so you are basically looking at somebody's personal data. You have to consider all that. So maintaining the sanity of the data is very important, along with the other data. So while sharing some of the statistical data also with other websites or anything, you need to identify privacy implications, and you may not want to violate them. I think then the last slide is from my side, about the awareness. What all things any person need to understand. First, you need to agree. You have agreed to share the information. So any person who's talking about his own privacy, then many times what happens, like for example, if I purchase new iPhone or any other device, I'll just go on clicking OK just to get that device started. So you have agreed for sharing such information with the manufacturer or the website, because they will obviously put you in a place wherein you are given the notice that you will be sharing this information with the manufacturer, and the manufacturer will be sharing that information with their partners or any other entities. So you need to be aware of this fact that you have agreed to share that information. So legally, if later something goes wrong, then you may not be able to defend yourself. Obviously there are rules to it, but I'm saying that ultimately at one level you have agreed to share that information. And another thing is, from organization standpoint, just try and declare what type of data you are saving or processing from anybody's privacy point of view, and be ethical to it. Obviously, I'm adding it as an awareness measure. Then apart from that, check if you have process for each. If you're also at least collecting or processing the data, have some data protection mechanisms, or the rules which are set by the regulations. At least achieve those and get yourself compliant to those, so that your processes are set for uh, end-to-end data handling, so that you are not creating any issues for yourself. Organizations and individuals should know the data. They should understand what data they are sharing, and what that data can impact about. So those things are really necessary. And these days, since we are working from home, the BYOD policies came in effect quite rapidly. So those policies can actually be driven by the technologies instead of manually, or by creating awareness instead of driving those manually. There are now technologies which are available which can ensure the BYOD policy is implemented across your network and the employees. Then periodically utilize some of the discovery tools which will ensure that the data wherever it is shared within the network or outside the network is discovered, meaning that there are tools which help you to discover card related data, personal information in the network. So if it is accidentally saved at some of the wrong places, or if it is flowing in the network without your knowledge or without any security administrator's knowledge, then you have to identify those points and try to see whether you can distract that data or not. Such tools are available, you can utilize them, and it is necessary to periodically run such tools within the network. And lastly, I think consented data is provided to third parties, but yeah, every individual needs to understand the consents are given blindly. So I'm not sure, this is open question to everybody, but have you guys read the pop-ups which come on the websites which you visit in these days? So the pop-ups tells you that we require the browser cookies and some of the information on your browser to maintain the smoothness of website. So I don't know if anybody has gone in depth, but those agreements specifically tells you that where that data will be shared and how that data will be shared. So it may be just a trivia type thing, but you can go into those agreements and read through those at least once, so that you'll understand what all things are written in that and what all things you agree blindly. So even I'm sure, being security professionals, not many people really care about what they are agreeing to, and they just go next, next, next to get stuff going. All right. So yeah, and after that, I think the last point which I forgot to mention, that you from organization standpoint and from individual standpoint also, if you're able to compromise somebody's data, or if organizations are facing any breach, they should be aware of the legal implications and the fines which they might be imposing. So those things you have to keep in mind and handle each and everybody's data very carefully. The reference links, I may share those links over our WhatsApp group as well. But the first link which I spoke about in earlier slides, this link gave me a lot of good insights about how laws and data protection regulations are handled worldwide. So it has really good drop down view list for each and every country. You can compare countries laws, you can compare the definitions also, you can look at various definitions, because the definitions vary, and data privacy is such complicated area right now that everybody comes up with their own views on it. So obviously you can have that looked into. And yeah, some of the other links which I have shared as a reference, which I've studied and I've gone through, which have helped me to build this session overall. So I think with that my session is done. I'm again, thank you so much for the opportunity to present. I think we'll take the questions if there are any, and
Srikant, there
otherwise,
are,
yeah,
yeah,
sure,
thank you for the session. It was great, Srikant. And there are a few questions already on the chat. If you can take a
yeah,
look
sure,
at the
I'll go through
chat,
them. Yeah, sure,
yeah, and answer them one by one. And if there are any more questions, guys, please feel free to post on the
sure.
chat.
Uh, UPI comes under PII. Yes, I think it does. Yes, because it's again payment related information. If I'm not wrong. Also, eBay scans your local network. I'm not sure what exactly is that. Arogya Setu app got breached by some attacker where he was able to change location. Does it lead to data privacy breach? I think location of the patient is again considered as the privacy of any person, because location tracing is part of the personal data. So yeah, of course it is again considered as privacy breach, but however that attack is something which I think it's quite famous and it is speculated. I'm not sure whether that attack was really making some sense or not. That's heavy debate on that attack. Which tools can be used for discovery? Actually, there are proprietary tools. Names, maybe I would put. I don't have the names at the moment immediately, but I will put it across maybe over our group or so. Thought, shouldn't there be some icon in browser like data padlock that would signify the privacy stance? Or yeah, actually it would be a really great feature if that comes in picture. uh, yeah, I'm not sure whether browsers are looking into that, but at least I think there is a pop-up. I've seen it on Firefox at least, that it gives a pop-up of location tracing. If the website is asking for location information, then it gives a pop-up whether you want to share location information or not. But yeah, some feature like that would be really great to have. Browsers like Brave help us to protect our privacy. Yeah, absolutely right. I think eBay question related to, I'll have to, why is this code scanning me? Null sweep. Is this is
Yeah, this is
legal?
reference for everybody. I guess we can move to the
Yeah.
question. Next one.
Yeah. Does UAE have any data policies? They have come up. So yeah. So UAE has their own IT Act and their like the country's laws, which talks about data protection. And recently, DIFC has come up with a data protection law for the organizations associated with DIFC and other organizations handling the financial data. So yeah, those rules are there. And along with that, so that's what I think. There are I'm not sure exactly the numbers, what exactly the law or the number of law, but yeah, there are rules related to data protection.
Yeah, and NISA also has
Yeah,
some guidelines.
correct, correct. Saving victims' information, credentials, possibly in clear text, and while doing phishing assessment for period of time. Actually, it should not be done that way. So for phishing, we generally take so since I'm working in consulting firm, we first ask the customer whether they really want to show or share some or save some of the credential information of their employees. Most of them, they don't allow us or they don't ask us to do so. Or if they ask us to do so, then we have to showcase that we have securely deleted that information. But yeah, it is not good idea to do that. So yeah, generally, yeah, for red team, exactly. But for red team, we first sign the consent document, or we take the prior permission that in that we share to them that we will be required to gather some of the information, and it will be kept limited for POC purpose only. And then we ensure that we are deleting such information. We give that comfort to the customer. And whenever we hit that point, when we discover such kind of data, we first inform the client or the organization while performing red team assessment. So those sort of precautions you can always take, not to violate somebody's privacy measures. Yeah.
Um, Great. So thank you, Shrikant. And Shrikant's presentation will be available on Null website as well as on his personal website, wherever he wants to share it with us. So he will share the link with us and we'll post it on the Null website. Um,
Okay, thank you
so
so much,
moving
Rupam.
on. Thank you, Shrikant.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks, take care. I'll
So
just stop my sharing.
yeah. Moving on, we